I'm saying there? Happy Sunday. It's wonderful, wonderful to be here with you. Let me see if I switch mics here. Everything should be set at Copic. Everything should be looking good. You should be hearing everything fine. You're not seeing my face tonight. I really want to try this. I really want to see how it works for you all. I get a lot of flack here on James True Live anytime I put a lot of effort into art, or it's called soulless or lifeless. Anytime I try and reinvent the paradigm of what is entertainment, I'm scolded for not doing what's popular. Literally stalked by people that insist that the key to life is to listen to me on double speed, and by condensing myself into some sort of dehydrated milk, that they will snort this powder and reach the promised land and find the sacred solution to all of their problems. And they get hit with a board in the face because I tell them that the problems that they have are hallucinated for the sole purpose of distracting them from the even deeper problems that they think they have. And you want to talk about having a hard conversation? Try explaining that that's what's going on when someone's has that going on. This is deep, difficult level, you know? And we do what we can, right? We get where we can, we find places, we reinvent, and, you know, we end up with you know, obviously what a choice you have. You're kind of stuck sort of having to highfalutinly find yourself with me. And you climb aboard this airship and things are happening and you don't know what's going on. You don't know what knobs are what. And the shape of the earth is about the only popular subject that you even feel an inkling of which some people are at least trying to address reality in some way. I remind you all that most everyone is insisting that the mystery about why we're all here is not a mystery at all. And that if anyone has any doubts or questions about what reality is or the shape of things, that's just wrong. And that anyone that thinks that way is really just trying to play big boys. And that we need to let the academics do this. And when you ask the academics, you're like, hey, academic, you've spent the last 30 years studying the esoteric rituals of the ancient Greek cult of the Phalamalachies. And we'd like for you to take this moment in front of all this audience, the only opportunity you'll ever have to share with us one of these rituals. And you're told, no, they're too complex. They're far too complex for me to be able to explain. And you're watching this event and you're noticing that no one's getting any pollen. And you realize that the people that are told to get out of the play box want to play. They want to have fun with this world. And the people that don't want to sit inside and insist that we know the answer, but it's too complicated, so we're not going to tell you. And so you hear stories about strength. You hear quantums about quasars. You find yourself discussing the finer points of physics with a dude who, let's face it, Bill Nye probably has worn an adult diaper a few times. I'm just saying it's probably more likely that he has than he hasn't. And you're watching the trough of your fellow humans feed from that palate, and they're told this is what's real. And you're wondering. You're not wondering if what they say is real. You're wondering, could these people even take it? Regardless of what the truth is, could they even take it? Right? So you have a choice. Jerome Maiden, The Shape of the Earth versus Sam Tripoli, The Freemasons and Their Cave. Hey, I say go watch Sam Tripoli. That dude has so many more people watching him. He has such a huge fans and following, Jerome. You go for it. You go for it. I am not here to scare you. I am not here to even imply that Freemasons, I think Freemasons invented buildings. That's how crazy I am. I think that the Freemasons are so much the antithesis of the cave that it's kind of funny that we're all wandering around figuring out which one of the Freemasons we're going to blame for Justice Roberts voting that it's not a tax, and that you being required to purchase a product every month is not a tax. It's a feature. It's a feature of your freedom. Your freedom has features. And these people are, I'm not talking about Sam. I got no beef with Sam. In fact, I'm already even having me on. That's pretty awesome, right? I mean, come on. That's awesome. That's why I'm like, hey man, go ahead. If you want to advertise this choice for other people, Jerome, I mean, they're already here. Just so you know, they're already here in the cockpit. And you're like, hey, gee, I wonder if we should leave the cockpit and go to look at this other super jetliner here. You got this dirigible, James? Is that what we're on, a dirigible now? Is this an airship? Tripoli, he's got 3 motors. 3, right? Triple props. He's a tri-prop, right? He's a tri-props. James, what do you got over here? You got Shag. You got Shag. I get it. You got Shag, James. But is that enough? Is that enough, James? I want to feel fear, James. I want you to tell me the Freemasons and what to do. I'm not even saying that's why you're here, Jerome. I have no idea. No idea. So here we are. And I used to do these things called open skate. And they were audio only because I was raised in the wonderful world of audio. I think it's a more intimate form of communication. Plus, I believe that a lot of people should be moving their bodies more. And frankly, staring at a screen and looking at me, it doesn't seem like a lot of fun. I can still give you visuals, you know, and this is part of why I've been actually putting a lot of time into this thing I'm calling the Airship, which is basically this sort of software package that allows me to show you different things at different points in time and things. It needs a lot of work. It's a lot of crazy things are kind of being done right now, and it's got a long way to go. And that's actually why I haven't been streaming more. But if you guys would entertain me, if you enjoy these kinds of things, I think I might branch out into try something like this, because I miss having that Sunday vibe. Prairie Home Companion, love that show. Car Talk, freaking love that show. Used to like Glowbusters, and then it was decided that well, a lot of things changed, to be honest. A lot of things. One of which is I made a comment about how it's kind of gatekeepy, and ironically, I got gatekeeped by saying that it was gate. That's funny to me. That's funny. That some of you are gonna like. That's not funny, and I'm not even trying to be funny. If you want me on double speed, it's going to be probably either twice as funny or half as funny. I don't even know how the math works, except for I don't want you in my life. If you're out here and you're like, I need an answer at double speed, I don't fucking have it. I don't have it. We're going for a ride. Now the airship does not fly right now. Right now it's stationary to the ground. All we can do is walk around. That's all we can do. And last week, what I learned how to do is I wanted to be able to play songs for you guys, and I wanted to be able to kind of move in between songs like a DJ, so that I could still talk and share information, but we could also kind of take a break and go in between. And so most of my week last week actually was building a visualizer in Unity, this 3D software program that you're looking at. It allows you to hear songs as they play, so it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. And that's what I'm doing. You know, I'm building an airship out of code. It's weird. This is probably why I don't have like a Sam Tripoli thing, you know, because I'm like over here smoking bowls, writing Unity code. You want to know what I wrote today that was really profound? First of all, I want to say that tonight's show is brought to you by hydrogen peroxide, which is a special topical solution that you can use to apply to a wound in which the paradox itself of being injured is directly apportioned to the laceration. The laceration is met with a sort of awakening of what it actually means to be injured. And so hydrogen peroxide is now available in Revco, if you can find Revcos. And notice you'll have to actually go back into time to get to the Revco to get the future product of hydrogen peroxide. But this is actually why they call it hydrogen peroxide, which is why you know it's so good. So we're going to try this, guys, and we're going to start off with our song. I'm going to see how the song works. Again, we're testing the airship. I have no idea how it works. I'm sorry you can't see me right now. I know some of you have probably planned to masturbate to my beautiful face as I'm stretching you through time and space, and you're disappointed. But that's okay, because we are here. We're still going to have a good time. And let's all use this last opportunity to shake our tails. I'd like for you to get out your tails right now and have a good time. If it's too loud or too soft, let me know. I think it actually probably needs to go up a little bit. All right, that was Jimmet from Summer. We're going to make sure we turn it down. I think it might start over again. I hope I wrote it where it doesn't start over. And looks like it didn't start over, so that's pretty good success. Thanks for being here, everyone. Some of you have been invited to go watch Sam Tripoli by the wonderful Jerome, so feel free to join him. You can jump over there and check out that show. Does anyone else want to advertise any other live streams that are happening in the middle of my chat while this is happening? That's a great opportunity. Thanks again for joining me tonight on this wonderful Sunday. Hoping to set you guys a beautiful, beautiful vibe. It's been rainy here. Overcast, rather gray. I wouldn't know because I've kind of been like just doing nothing but eating and sleeping C#, which is kind of not really good for me. Not really good for me at all. But you just get so excited. You get so autistically involved in something that it kind of gets hard to step away and get outside. But I got some good stretching in today. Want to remind you all, a wise woman told me that the spirit is in the stretch itself. And a lot of times the reason why I'm gonna blame men right now. A lot of times the reason why men won't stretch is, first of all, there's a rumor going around that like if anyone does yoga, you're like practicing like satanic worship, which is like, all right, guys, let me get this straight. You're reminding each other every day not to suck each other's phallus because you hate gay people so much. And anyone who tries to stretch is secretly in league with Satan. And yet, I just described to you like a giant chunk of the population. Like, this is seriously what they think. And if you can picture that angst as a sort of like a milky toast kind of chemical, like that film that you sometimes see on top of a puddle that's formed, that not that sort of like rainbow oily spill where you're kind of like, okay, that's gross, but kind of beautiful. It's kind of like that scummy Milky Toast kind of vibe. That's like, that it used to be a rainbow, but now it's like a muddied brown version of a rainbow. So it's still like oily. It still has the viscosity of grossicity, right? But it doesn't have the punch of iridescence, right? It doesn't have that. And so the angst of all those people thinking that way is showering you with radiation, and me too. And the positivity that is coming inside of you, that is birthed forth, has been a radiance. You are a lumen in which a sacred lantern is shining out through the holes. You got holes, baby. They're holy. And these Ha's, a bunch of ion channels called Ha's in the Hebrew language. No one's questioned me on that, so I'm going to stick with it. Some of you guys are like, I don't know if James is qualified to talk about Hebrew. And I agree with you. I don't think so. By the way, I said this the other day. No one challenged me. It's weird. Last week, I stepped way too out of the box and pushed way too much on pride. I'm sorry. This is the first Pride Month that I've had where I've used my compassion in a deeper way, and I've lost zero energy the entire time. Typically, during Pride Month, I tend to think about the eugenics of government and how stupid people are and how we're turning this sort of need to curtail the population into a desire to embrace a letter of the alphabet that will lead to anything except for sexual reproduction. And I still think that. I'm proud of the words that I've written because I do think that's the case, and that's a certain frequency. And there's so much more too. There's so much more too. And last week I mentioned that you know what? I think I'm going to read it. What do you think about that? James, you can't read something on the air. What are you, cray-cray? Cray-cray to the ZZ? I want to remind everyone, I've invented this expression. You're welcome to use it. It's called, instead of calling someone, that baby's cray-cray, you could say, cray-cray to the ZZ would be like the ultimate form of this person's crazy. Okay, it's sort of like a pinch of Z, two snaps in Z formation with the cra to the Z, the cray to the Z, and then you've got this. It's a lot of room, guys. Let's all practice it together. Cree, cray to the Z's. I like to learn in phonetic song, by the way. So, cree, cray to the Z's. A is how you insult your mate. Boop, boop. Cree, cray to the Z's. A is how you insult your mate. And this cree, cray to the Z's thing that I was talking about, I'm going to read this. I usually don't. I always regret it when I start to read something because I'm like, James, you sound like you're reading. And then I instantly drain myself of the energy in the middle of reading it. This is how I set things up before I read things, because I think that in the victim psychology, I'm embracing the victim. So I'm going to tell you that I'm going to fuck up long before I read this. But anyway, these are the things that are going through my head, which is what happens when you get on the airship with me. And now you're fucked, right? You should have gotten off and listened to Sam Tripoli, but you didn't. You're like, nope, Jerome threw that last line and we didn't fucking take it. What are we going to do now? James, there's no reason to cuss. Why you got to do that? Let me read this 2 days ago. Stepping back. We see an old generation of people who've been taking Viagra for years, freaking out about hormone pills that invigorate a new generation's sexuality. These footsteps are soothing, though, if you follow their intention compassionately. The flower of consciousness is blooming, and it's always looked like deviance to the orthodoxy. The pelvis of Elvis, the love generation. Flower power, feminism, shoulder pads for women, the men's movement, Boy George, all the 80s hair bands, the AIDS epidemic, gay pride, MGTOW, believe it or not, MGTOW, all of the sovereign movement, all of the men with beards, right? You don't have beard, right? All that. All your transgender politics, all your LGBTQ stuff, but also all your trans stuff. Every one of these things that I'm telling you about. Every one of them, including, but see, keep in mind, because the pelvis of Elvis, all the 80s hair bands, this includes, oh God, Def Leppard's in there. I know, I'm sorry, but it's There's Led Zeppelin's in there. There's some guys. Quiet Riot is even in there. Even Quiet Riot is in there, and you're fucked. So understand that some of you have tried to argue and say, well, those are all bad things. But if you're arguing that all these things have been bad things, that literally means that you think that the pinnacle of human civilization, of the consciousness of man, occurred in the 1915. Because the Roaring Twenties, you would have been freaking the fuck out. If you would have watched everyone with their flapper dresses and you have the attitude that you have now, you would have been freaking out then. And I want you to keep freaking out. I think it's important. I think that the fact that we, or some of us, or you, or whatever, depending on what it is I'm going to say, because I don't even know what I'm going to say, is that how ashamed you are of the modern culture is not a flaw. The veneration for orthodoxy will look like I despise what the generation is doing. It will always look that way. Unless there was no respect. If you do not respect your own generation's ways, you will have zero orthodoxy to apply. If you do not proliferate new life, then the new life will be seen as a reflection on how poorly you grow. If the new life that grows from you does not look and conform to the way that you grew, you are going to have a problem. You're going to freak out, essay. You're going to say, hey, Holmes, what are you doing wearing those frilly clothes? Why are you thinking this way? Why are you coming into this room suggesting that you are either a man or a woman, that you're a person? What is this? And it's fucking terrifying. It's terrifying because for 200,000 years, you are sold that in 200,000 years of evolution, and it was in 1910 when everything should have stopped, and that's the moment where everything was perfect, and the moment that we changed from then, everything went to shit. And this is when special relativity was invented. This is when the space race was invented. This is when Michelson Morley took off and curved the measurements themselves, which allowed us to change the very shape of our reality, which we have right now. And when you want to find the answer to what is the question itself, because you don't even know what the question is, you discover that you're surrounded by people that the very, very, very last thing that any of them ever, including the flat earth people, the furthers, will ever be able to admit is that they're hallucinating. I'm even including it's a simulation fucks. These fucktards, I'm calling them fucktards because they've been coming around lately and insisting that if you do not know that it's a simulation, you're an idiot. And then I asked them, what is it a simulation of? And they're gone. They don't even answer because they don't want the answer. They want a click. And this is the theme of this, if I have a theme, this shape of the earth, because the shape of the earth is the shape of your click. And the people that you choose to venerate are in fact the ones that are giving you the architecture of the earth that makes you feel comfortable, the cosmology that gives you enough utility to survive in the world. And you come back and you measure which out of all the utilities of which world that I choose to believe is the shape gives me the most use, and that's the one that I believe. And so we end up believing that I don't know the shape of the earth, but I know that everyone's been lied to except for me. This is, I think, at the heart of concave, convex, flat, ball earth. All of these things have this same element, which is that the last thing that we know is definitely not happening is that I am hallucinating. This is the insistence that everyone has. And it has taken me years to develop the calf strength to be able to stand in a pose that, quite frankly, I find surprising more flat earthers aren't able to have, which is that what if zetetically it is different for every person? and that zetetically the earth could be literally shaped by the power of one's mind. And we have decided this is impossible. And what's even sadder is the very people that have insisted that the entire paradigm of the shape of our world is wrong are the ones that have come in and insisted through the regimency that there's no fucking way this could be hallucinated. There's no way. And everyone's giving their power away again, every time. Which is why I have a short fuse with simulation. Because to simulate is to emulate something else. And for you to know that you are emulating something else is to not be in the world. And this is the same psychology as victimhood. It is the same psychology of everyone is being lied to, which means that we are now impervious to lies. And that's what Flat Earth gives you. And the same people that say Flat Earth means I'm impervious to lies go out and insist that the rabies vaccine is just a rumor. That the virus, I should say, the virus itself, the rabies virus itself is a rumor. And it's not a popular thing to talk about, so you can't. Just like when I try and tell you Hutzlapotli, and you're like, you get tired halfway through. And you start to realize that, well, what if we just erase all that history? If anything happened that has a longer name with more than 3 syllables, what if we just say it was just disappeared with mud and that all of it's gone? And that now there's a brand new thing and that everything's reset. And now we don't have to memorize anything. We don't have to study anything. We don't have to look at anything. We can go through history at double speed and we can insist that it be fed to us in 3 minutes. And this is exactly where our culture is, and I don't think it's wrong. I do not think it's wrong. I think it's good to know that this is the palette that we have. I don't think, like others think, I do not think that we are losing our ability to hold our attention. I think that man has grown self-worth, and the self-worth has made it more difficult for you to jingle keys in front of someone and entertain them. They are less likely to stay now because they have more self-worth. And right now we're watching people insist that politics is real. You're watching people argue about a debate as if that shit is real. And it's no different than when I went to a wrestling match with my grandfather and I looked over at him and I realized, this guy thinks this is real. He thinks all of this is real. And I watched him die with that. I never wanted to change that. I never wanted to take that away. And think about all the regimentarians that are out there insisting that you understand and believe their version of flat earth or their version of ball earth. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. When someone begins their sentence with false, blah, 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 they are collapsing the wave because they cannot handle the ocean. Every academic that you see will not be able to generalize and give you a hypothetical example of an ancient ritual because their wave has collapsed and they can only deal with the dust that remains behind. This is why speculation is a sin in those circles. There's a blanket assumptions that are built into the framework, but those have been petrified enough to where everyone knows it's okay to lean up against those assumptions. One of those assumptions is that if one person can reproduce something in a lab in one city and someone else reproduces that same thing in a lab in another city, then that means that if 17 million people were inside the lab watching this experience, that the exact same thing would have to happen. No doubts, zero doubts about it. We have tested this, even though we haven't. We assure you this is the way it works, even though none of us know. None of us know. And when I read you stories from Wonders of the Sky, I'm showing you how deeply the costumes change from the alien life to the Bigfoots to the Sasquatches to the Chupacabras. That these energies change form precisely because you do. And there's this tenet in the orthodoxy that insists that for some reason, even though all of nature completely changes all the time, no matter what, it's like nothing but change, that for some reason man is a perfect being in which there's never any deviance or growth or movement anywhere, and that the same consciousness and the same psyche that exists now that sees roughly 0.01% of the spectrum has always only been able to see, but also has always fully seen the exact 0.01% of the spectrum. And even that we know scientifically isn't true, but it doesn't fucking matter. So if you know that you're limbically, that all the evidence that you see changes, why are we not rethinking what it is we're insisting is real? And more importantly, when you're watching a group of lemmings leave one cosmology that insists it's right, and anyone's a retard who doesn't believe it, only to go to another cosmology and say this is right, and anyone who doesn't believe it is a retard. How is that truly growth? If you were living in a hallucinatorium, it would look just like this. If you understand that you are a moya, you're a vessel living inside of a vessel, and you've cloistered yourself into the nucleus of this ship, this Earth ship, because you can simulate every single thing that's outside the world inside your ship and make educated, compassionate decisions on what to do based on that simulation. You and I have a moya in our brain, you just can't see it. It's called a phonological loop. And when I give you a phone number and you walk to find a pencil and a sheet of paper, you're seeing how weak your moya is because you're an inkling of a species right now. You're an inkling who's still learning to even kind of move away from the fertility gear of your species and into this compassionarian gear somewhere else. And you have this number, this 7-digit number, and you can't even remember that. You have to repeat it over and 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 over again. And you've watched as when I was a kid, believe it or not, phone numbers were even 4 digits. That it was just the 886 was implied, and then 7 digits was standard, and then all of a sudden 10 digits became standard, and now we don't even use them anymore. But that's really we've just changed that into an IP address. And because the IP address, we have a name server because we've created a mycelium that can do quick lookups, which says that jtrue.com is actually 196.168.64.29. If you remember the talk I gave last time about the 5 dimensions of numbers, you know that an IP address is a byte-based number. It's an object-oriented byte-based number, right? Each of those numbers has a value of 0 to 255, or 256 shades of number inside of that IP. And if you take 4 of those sets and multiply them together, you have a very large number. You have a large enough number where everyone in the world can have their own IP address. And what's happened is we've put all our refrigerators online. And now your refrigerator gets an IP address. Now your stove gets an IP address. And you are being surrounded by the mycelium. And you're seen from nature as having the exact same kind of addressable system as they do, because you're finally noticing, you're finally ready to hallucinate inside your moya the fact that the entire world is alive. And so the pilot that used to tell you, which is you, that only people are alive and dogs don't have souls, and You can kill anyone as long as you can prove they're a communist, or as long as they're a narcissist. You can do whatever you want, or you can steal anything you want as long as someone else gives you a rumor that's good enough to feel like someone's bad. Then you can do that. And you start to find this other gear, and this other gear is this deeper moya, and suddenly you're not having to memorize phone number by repeating it like a fucking retard. Then suddenly you have a deeper concept. Your foothold is deeper in the world. This is your root ball. Your root is growing into the soil, and as it finds its way into the soil, it's giving you nutrients. It's a beautiful thing. Hummingbird is mad. Hummingbird is outside the window right now. I pulled the feeder down to wash it, and I got distracted. I forgot. I'm going to play a song, see if I can get that hummingbird some feeder. I think it's interesting, though, that this is the spirit of Huitzilopochtli. And as a shallow person who didn't look at history, as a shallow person who was listening to the fucking rumors where people are like, arrowheads are psyops and all the other shit you hear, I never would have been able to go into Mesoamerican history and drink from that well. And it's my opinion that when I tell the hummingbird, hey, Huitzilopochtli, that's why he's back 2 hours later. It's part of this. He feels seen. He feels seen through the eyes of a species that finally can think of something more than just a 7-digit number. You can look for hundreds of years, right? Hope you guys are enjoying this Sunday night ride. I sure am. I'm going to get this guy some food, and we'll be right back. Well, shoot, that was a little bit shorter than I thought. Anyway, I'm filling up some of the water right now. This would be a great time to have a co-host and be like, yeah, let me do this. But it turns out my interlude also got copyright struck, so I can't do that. But yeah, Philosophy of the Beat, says Nico. Good to hear it. Good to hear it. Yeah. I am just not done. I'm going to have to play another song, which I hope you guys are enjoying this Airship ride. I swear I've got my act more together. It's just the Huitzilopochtli, man. The hummingbird must be fed. It's more important than you realize. Let's do one more, and I'm out of breath because I'm running. Appreciate you guys.
Me and the bolos won't pan out again. Me and the bolos won't pan out again. Break out your bad, baby, break out your bad. Break out your bad, baby, break out your bad. Me and the bolos popping up again. Me bombo clat, baby, not again. Break out your bad, baby, break out your bad. Break out your bad, baby, break out your bad. Jumping, flexing, I just want to know. Gucci blessing, blessing, and I know when you ride, bless on me. You'll be something in my life, bless on me. Baby, ride, jumping, flexing, I just want to know. Gucci blessing, blessing, and I know when you ride, bless on me. You'll be something in my life, bless on me. Baby, ride. Me and the bolos won't pan again. Me and the bolos won't pan again. Break out your bad, baby, break out your bad. Break out your bad, baby, break out your bad. Me and the bolos popping up again. Me bobo clock, baby, that again. Broke out your bad, baby, break out your bad. Break out your bad, baby, break out your bad.
That's right, folks. I appreciate you hanging with me. The hummingbird syrup is ready. It's in the sink, and all I have to do is walk it over to the window. And I don't want to make you listen to another song. Not that you're making you, but I didn't want to. I think that what I can do is, if I add audio, I'm going to swear I'm going to start saying things again. I just need to, there it is, audio iPhone 8. If I do this to this scene, now, okay, I'm going to switch mics now. This would actually be a great test too. You guys should be able to hear me. And if you can't, let me know. The magic word is banana. Banana. But the emotional attachment that I have to feeling connected to the hummingbirds isn't even like a luxury. When you reach a certain parasympathetic state, you start to notice that certain tones are more important than you ever realized were before. I really hope you guys can hear me. And salt and sugar, I think, are probably the best example of this. We have salt licks and we have sugar licks. And salt and sugar are really... Okay, I'm back at the desk now, so if you guys actually could not hear me during that time, you can now. Thank you so much for waiting. Those of you who maybe just tuned in and were wondering, is this what it's like? It is what it's like. But also, I don't think I've ever changed hummingbird feeder on air. Normally I remember, so there you go. Oh, thanks so, man. So you did hear me. Oh, banana, yes, the secret word. It's the only way to know. Levels should be good now. That thing's back off. The hummingbird, I feel connection to the spirit of these things because I would asphyxiate if I didn't have it. And I would only asphyxiate if I didn't have it. This is what's profound in my opinion. I would only asphyxiate if I didn't have it, if I developed a flavor for what it was. Salt and sugar are the primary colors of taste. And when you're young, you need something. The importance of something being sweet and the importance of something being savory or salty are actually more about volume than they are about the actual taste of sweetness itself. There are academics out there that will insist that the reason why no cultures have ever been in contact before is because we would have seen proof of chocolate trade. And I think this is a very naive thought, because you're making the assumption that all of us had the palate for chocolate exactly the same and that our palates never changed. And this is naive of me to hear. I think it's naive to hear scientists suggest this. And they don't even go to PubMed to go, do smells change? Because there's, PubMed's 1648217 is article, or whatever, about how taste buds evolutionarily must have changed. If you go to a 17th century cookbook, I highly recommend if you're into this authenticity, check out Townsend's and Son, and their cookbooks. You will cook that food and it will be awful, and it won't be because you cooked it wrong. The palate that you're appealing to is different, and when the palate's different, the ingredients are different, the preparation is different, and even the things that you even call food are different. I remind you all that nightshade tomatoes were considered poisonous. I don't just mean poisonous. I mean, if you were to find a bar or a tavern that was serving nightshade, you would stab somebody, because you grew up in a place where they told you that if someone feeds you a tomato, they're trying to kill you. And that shit's not made up. Like, where do you think that idea came from? So our palates evolve, our mind evolves, our understanding of things evolves, our skill sets evolve. We become faster. We're able to achieve longer distances. We can hold our breath longer underwater using technology. We can jump higher in the air using planes. Every single thing changes except for this orthodox belief that there has to be one singular world and that only we know it. This is truly at the heart of this constipation which is slowing us down so much. And the people that are insisting that the shape has to be this way are just mafia thinkers. They've created a gang on the street. And if you live in that gang, you don't have to have your shit together. All you have to do is serve the gang. And this is why I use words like gatekeeper. Because the truth movement itself would be a collection of people that have developed hideaways, collection agencies, points. I call it a tent. It's the same thing. I do the same thing for other people to gather. We are gatherers as much as we are hunters. And the gathering is more important than we think, because it's not food we're gathering. We're gathering everything. Everything. And you can hunt for the stretch or you can gather the stretch. You can go out and seek, I will stretch because I have a back pain, and if I stretch then it won't be there next time. That's a primary sugar salt way of looking at the world. That's looking at the world from an orthodoxy of, if anyone stretches, you're committing Satanism, or there can only be one way. The other is, why am I being told to stretch? And in the middle of the stretch, one moment you're going to wake up. And in that moment, you're going to have a deeper realization that you didn't have before. In 1555, that realization, maybe not 1555, but that realization was held by an old man. An old man with a cane was having back pain, and he didn't have a consciousness to understand that it's his back that hurts. He didn't have the consciousness to put two and two together. And you might be going, well, you must be stupid. No, the phonological loop crew. That a long time ago, our consciousness was based more intrinsically on the serfdom which means the belief that's in the soil. The nutrients of the soil give us our morality until it takes root in ourselves. And until it takes root in ourselves, we literally develop Noahide laws. This is what I was trying to mention earlier. That when you listen to the people that are blaming the Jews for everything, and some of them are flat earthers, of course, but I'm not here to pick on flat earth. I know it seems like that. I just miss the Sunday vibe of that. But when you walk into any of these camps, you're seeing a healthiness, and you're seeing a kind of a fear and a desperation. And most of this comes from the idea of that there's a victory, that we must have a victory, that we must be the ones that have the right answer. It's as if God's going to reward the people that knew what the shape was. And this is the same thinking that thought God's going to reward us if he knows what name we're supposed to call him. Or God's going to reward us if he knows how the proper fingers to hold when we're signing the cross. We talked about this the other day, about that Konashenka, this Russian opera about the old believers. That this guy who had his back hurt, the only way that the medicine woman could tell him to use the cane was to explain that the cane had magical properties because it looked like a horse. And because the cane looks like a horse, if you pet the horse's head, the horse will give your back comfort. And that the man is told this story. He's told to pretend that it is a horse, the real version of the word pretend. And so he does. He pretends the cane is a horse, and he rides the horse into town, and his back doesn't hurt. And that's not an odd story. This is plain as day telling you that the capacity of consciousness not too long ago. These are the same people that freaked out. They were taking the mud packed hooves from horses and sticking a syringe in there and sucking that juice, that gray water juice that forms in a town that has no roads. And as the horse was walking, and all the manure and the feces of literally everyone that came into that town, that it was able to fester inside the hoof of the horse with enough gusto that if you could take a syringe and to pull that pus, that horse grease, the grease of those hoofs, and stick them inside your child's arm, or even better, to scrape your child's arm as if you were plowing a field. And after you scrape and aerate the soil of the skin, you're supposed to take this grease and apply it into the skin, and that was medicine, and that it was just as right as what we use now. And through all the epidemics, we went from horse grease to cow pus. We moved from horse grease into cow pus. And the whole word vaccine comes from the idea that you would bring a cow that would walk into a village that would have a graft on his ass. And that graft would be growing pustules. And these pustules, if you paid the right price, could be inserted into your child because you believe. And these same people are telling you this is the shape of the earth, and if you do not agree, you're going to kill us all. The power of belief gets most of its torque from the group because we're still learning to use it. And as more of us grow, this is why leprosy's disappeared, we develop a sense of our true nature. And I think eventually enough of us will see this Moya idea, this Osiris idea, that I am living inside of my own world. And I've created this holodeck that has its own mitochondria because the power centers that are in the world would need to look like this in order to give me the most accurate picture of just how vast this universe is. And so you start to look at the psychology of why someone would want a ball earth. We've talked about this before. I've written about it before. But because I'm actually speaking positively, that people who think about Ball Earth, these ideas get missed in the Flat Earth community because it's not sticking to the line of, look, man, everyone's lying to us, but only we know it. Because in my system, no one would need to be either lied to or deceived. That the truth is that it would be quite helpful for someone to blur out the rest of the world, to create a situation where the rest of it just would not exist, and that psychologically you would find comfort in this, the same way that you would insist that there were no demons as yellow fever was running through the village. Now, you don't know why yellow fever's there. And you've got theories, and the modern people at the time are saying it's because of this demon. And you're like, well, what does the yellow fever demon look like? And they tell you, well, it's yellow. And it's fervorous. And it runs through the spiny caverns, the cobwebs of your brain. That there's a spider-like web, that nebulous web on the outer skirts of your brain, the outer perimeters. And when you hallucinate on the right amount of drugs, good or bad, you can go to that forest and you see those spiders. And they're there because you're just placing your assemblage point inside your brain. And you're leaving your mind and you're exploring these thoughts. This is why so many of our memories we think about in ways of being depth. It's because our neurons are deeper some things. And we're only going to be able to remember as much as we can enunciate. When I say enunciate, I'm talking about a limbic enunciation. That if the room enunciates to us and we have enough limbic receptors for it, that we will take a snapshot of the limbic picture of that event, and the resolution of our snapshot would be directly congruent to the video card that our brain is allowing us to run, and that brain would allow us to run a fancier video card only if it didn't have worries or fear about what was going to be on the screen. And that this really would be the thing that shapes your world more than anything else. Not just the shape of it, but how it flows. Whether or not it was broken would be a big part of this. And as you're thinking that the world is broken, it's full of evil people, it's hard for you to consider this, but I want you to consider that your world is broken because you are committing evil in it. But James, I'm not evil, and it's everyone else is broken. And you're misunderstanding the word evil. Evil is a red pheasant. And you just saw it. And either you're going to freak out and run, or you're going to go, let's go get it. And it's a king's bird. It's dangerous. You don't want to go get that thing. You don't want to get caught with it. You can't get caught looking at your own fears in this society, God forbid. And when you have these moments, you are given the opportunity to up the resolution. It's the only way you do it. It's the same principles at a gym, right? Oh, the hummingbird's back at the... look at that. I feel great. God, I feel like such a good person now. Oh, man. I'm telling you, I'm not even implying I am, guys. I'm just telling you that watching the hummingbird come right back, hit that thing, and leave, I feel amazing. I feel amazing. And the only way that I would have even bothered, you know, much high maintenance it is for a single guy to like have a hummingbird. I'm just telling you, other guys would know. It's like, yeah, that sounds like a fucking lot of work. Yeah, because you got to make sure it doesn't get sour and bad. I mean, there's a lot to it, and it's already like dainty and stuff. It's just tricky, and you if I didn't have the palate. If my palate was back in the salt, sugar, I would never understand the flavor of feeling hotlopotly entitled to the feeder and upset it's not there and waiting for me to coming back and hitting it. Maybe it's a different hummingbird. I don't care. It doesn't matter because the cosmology that I have, I don't need anyone else to approve. And this is everything. When you were playing as a child, this is what it's like. that you're there in the room. Next thing you know, you're like, and Captain James is turning around. Slowly he turns. Step by step. Inch by inch. And I've left the household of the normalcy that's around me. And I'm at Niagara Falls. And the room is transformed around me with such a placebo effect that either you're placed into my bubble or you're threatened by its existence. Most of the time, people are threatened by its existence. And you watch this happening in your adolescence, probably because you were being turned into a breeder, which I have no problem with it. I think we need to breed. Definitely do. And I'm telling you that it became a lot harder for you to imaginate when your parents are telling you, hey man, I need you to put all of this imagination, turn it into angst, and force yourself into one of these things. Because you got to have fucking kids. Can't you see we're going to die? We're running out of, we got to have fucking kids. We need kids now. And that's a good, healthy mentality that would be important. And that same people that would insist it's important would probably also insist the entire world has been a shit show since 1910. And they weren't even around in 1910. So they're telling you that the entire essence of every single thing that they've ever seen is shit. And they're saying it with authority as if they have their act together. The only authority they have is they're mad. And that anger goes so far that we build universities out of it. Giant cosmologies out of that stuff. Yesterday I walked into a store and some lady's like, do you need a bag? And I was like, no, it's okay. She's like, oh, thanks for saving the planet. And I didn't say anything. Do you know why I didn't say anything? Because if I was in that mentality, whether it be ball earth or flat earther, I could say, and I've had this mentality. It's why I know it, by the way. It's why I know it. So as your thumb's downing, just remember, this is why I know this, because I'm there. Is that if I wasn't in a play state, I could have said, hey, stop imagining that the planet is dying and that you're the only one trying to save it, and that in order to convince me to stop buying bags, you were creating... No, because what I see is, here's a woman who's really excited about saving the planet. Why does she want to save the planet? Because she thinks the planet is valuable. So she's imagining that the planet's valuable. She's imagining that the planet's valuable and that it is her job to crusade for it. And this is a great game to play. I like this game better than, hey man, we're trying to figure out what the answer is, but only one of us can have the answer. And the person who wins is the person that convinces other people, even if it's by force, whether or not they will insist that this person's version of what they think is true is actually happening. We're playing that game. Do you want to play? You want to play? And I'm like, no, that sounds really, really awful. And the response is, tag, you're it. And so Witchburner gets thrown into the mix because you see why this game is so important. It's one of the most potent imaginary games on the playground. And people will literally kill you for it. And I do not think the playground's broken. And we can say, oh, the world's fucked up. And it is. Recess is fucked up, man. Yeah. Let's go to recess, you and me. And instead of playing Foursquare... Instead of pulling Susie's hair, instead of playing on the jungle gyms, instead of seeing how freaking fast we can make the merry-go-round go, let's just sit on the basketball court and talk about how fucked up the world is. And let's sit over here like emu kids, and let's say that we are the only ones who know how to play for real. And that we've climbed into this construction tire because we're going to play for real. And all the others out there, they don't know what they're playing, but we do, because we have a fort, and no one else can come in our fort. And then I've just described to you the truth movement. And the truth movement's much larger than we think, right? It's every science is going to insist that it's the most accurate picture. It's might as well have sound argue with light over which one can be more moving. Some of you guys are like, oh, it's definitely light. No, it's fuck you, dude. It's sound. It's like, yeah. You know what? Really, the most moving is probably smell. I mean, you literally, like, you run out of it doesn't matter what kind of emotional state you are. There's certain smells that you have to fucking leave. You just have to go. The presence of God, right, would be sort of an ammonia. It would sort of look like ammonia. Can you picture that? Like, awe-inspiring, spectacular, and so much like ammonia that you can barely even look at it. The essence of God is this ammonia-esque chemical film that's burning the acid of your eyes just by the imminence of it. You think about this statement you've heard about your grace, where we would call royalty your grace, so that you're not speaking to the person, you're speaking to someone's grace. And that by calling someone your grace, you're literally reminding them that I'm not ever able to be in the room with you. I can only be in the room with your grace. And all of us, we say grace. We bow our heads for grace. But I don't know if we really understood the essence of grace as it pertains to truth itself, and that the reason why when people look directly in the face of God, their face melts off is because grace is that potent. It's so potent, grace is. And the seraph, right? The cherubim and the seraph, these different levels of angels. One angel is not able to actually look directly at God. I think it's the cherubims. The seraphs can. But then their bodies are covered, and the cherubs are the opposite way, but then they face the opposite way. It's something like that. It's because it's the only symbolism that could convey the idea of ammonia, of staring at ammonia. And you can't type back then ammonia. Ammonia wasn't even a chemical back then. Ammonia was, if you think about what ammonia was back then, ammonia was a living spirit. Like an alcohol, right? It's like we sort of kind of get how alcohol is kind of like a spirit now, the fermented spirit of the dead grape that was never appreciated. Dies with no one appreciating it, which causes it to ferment properly to turn it into wine. And this entire time, we've been using the chopsticks of salt and sugar. Salt and sugar to try and touch the intricacies of God. And we develop new palates. We develop the ability to taste poison. To integrate poison into our diet would mean that our ability to absorb bandwidth has grown. That our ability to render the world would have to grow too. Would have to. And that the biggest thing that's stopping us, I think, from our world's growing is this dramatic adherence and insistence that every single person has to have the exact same imagination game in their mind for this to work. Because that's what it is. And when you watch people that want to go to the North Pole, no one helps them because that would ruin what we're doing. And when you pull up the Flat Earth app for year 4 and you see that it hasn't changed, you understand this isn't about truth. Same thing happens with COVID. And that we're hosting giant gatherings where we're celebrating the end of COVID because we solved it and figured it out. And David Icke is like a headliner. It's a deeper lesson in the nature of the playground. And if you take it too seriously, you're going to mess up like I have. And you're not going to let other people play in the room. This is the Buddha at this point. Why is the Buddha always smiling? It's not because he doesn't think life is real. It's that he doesn't think that your illusion of life is real. And if you've embraced the idea that it's a simulation, that it's an illusion, and you're taking that more seriously than you were your own life, you're still doing it wrong. Life is always real. It is your Maya that is the illusion. It's yours. It's not someone else's simulation that's being fed to you through a bandwidth. It's yours. You actively imaginate and create every demon and every angel in your path. And today, when wasn't feeling so well, I knew that the key was not to try and stretch and then get it over with, or to try and clean and get it over with. The key for me feeling better in my back, because I've just been sitting too long, is to not just clean my room, but as I'm cleaning my room, to picture myself in the moya of my body. And that the fact that I haven't been able to walk a complete circle around my couch in the last week is exactly why my back hurts right now. And that if I restore the flow around this, the chi inside my moya, inside the hallucination of my house, is the only holographic way that I can touch the energy internally to me, which means that every single act of placebo that you practice involves you imaginating it. This is a concept that not a lot of you have heard of, maybe 2 of you have. It's called holographic medicine. And the healer is using their power of placebo to holographically place an image, an MRI of you next to your body, but only in their mind. And if you were watching someone holographically perform surgery on you, and you had this imaginary Gestapo that had been curtailing what you were allowed to fantasize, even if it's flat Earth, you would never be able to access this holographic medicine, and you could build an entire world where zetetically you could prove that it never existed, even if you tried to isolate belief from the equation, because you cannot isolate belief from the equation. It is a belief that you can isolate belief from a double-blind study. Both people are being studied underneath the same umbrella. That umbrella has the same purpose. It is a myth that we can eliminate a tangible plasmic force that touches everything. Our intentions are plasma. It's just energy, friends. You're hallucinating it as being an intention. You're hallucinating it as being not real. It's an electrochemo signal. We used to call these pheromones. You can call them pheromones. I'm not going to stop you. But these chemo signals are basically just an amino berry, an amino acid that has, some are shaped like berries, some are shaped like banana chips, and they have different flavors. And that the way you feel, you create this reef of these amoebas that come in and out of your skin, and that the haunting aura of who you truly are is this. And when we restore ourselves and go back into holographic medicine, the world of demons will return in a very constructive way. And we can look at the Bible and go, oh, this is why there's 65 quotes of Jesus doing necromancy in the Bible. Oh, this is why. It's because he's practicing holographic medicine. Because even your shape, when we go to Botswana, the oldest records of DNA have been found there that sort of resemble what we think Homo sapiens sapiens are. And then if you go there to Botswana and you picture that, it doesn't become that difficult to imagine how a Neanderthal and a Cro-Magnon could imaginate themselves from the same erectus. That the propensity to live in the valley of the Cro-Magnon, to live in the darkness, the deepest crevices of the earth. You're not clean a lot. You're not grooming a lot. You're not social a lot. You're a troll, basically, a ridge troll. And that the longer that you created your cosmology in there, the more that your body would be shaped around the cosmology that you've created. So you would end up Cro-Magnetizing yourself into that shape. And at the same time, if you wanted to live more on the ridge tops and you were more about distance, you were more seasonal or migratory, but you still lived in groups, so you were still social, you would You would start to develop the capacity for an Achilles heel, for, believe it or not, a larger back shape of your skull to balance yourself, believe it or not. That under top speed, it turns out that your head just becomes another limb. And that if your head can be balanced and used in just the right way, the momentum that you can get in a sprint improves if your head has a certain weight distribution to it. It's true. Born to Run is a good book about this if you're curious. And we live in a world which insisted, well, it's epigenetics, so it can't be helped. But actually, every single science of epigenetics tells you that it's epigenetics, which means you can change it. That if you drink alcohol every single day, you will epigenetically change your genes. And your grandkids will want alcohol every day because you tuned it that way. And all you're doing is taking that idea that could be installed in one generation and multiplying it by 7, by 10, by 100. It's quite easy to picture how dramatically we've evolved. The appendix, the tonsils, the wisdom teeth. There are so many parts of the body that when we look at them that we're just like, this is interesting. What is going on here? Even the amygdala, the way that the amygdala has curled itself like a shrimp, where it used to be like pointed straight, and then it ends up taking its tail and pointing it to the front, in front of its head. It was like a huge move. All the work that your occipital lobe had to do to run the wires to go all the way to the back of your head just so you could set up this own like pre-screening idea for what you're looking at is the amount of willpower you would need to want to be something more than a frog. Would require you being a frog so long and doing it so well that you develop the ability to imaginate a salamander. And the regenerational properties of these species are known. I don't have to tell you that, but maybe the reason why they're known is because you're looking at a crossroads of imagination at that point where it becomes much easier for an entity to build new fjords that you and I would call fingers, and to build new compartments and to develop new senses to move into those places the same way that we're doing it now. This is an unfolding, isn't it? We're unrolling ourselves, finding ourselves on our own tongue as it goes out and unrolls itself into this next place, you know? Hope you guys having a good time. Happy Sunday.
Hey, what up, say? Yeah, all my life I told them I would do this, now I done it. Even as a child, they tell me that boy, yeah, this Sunday. Now I seen them out, they ask me how the music coming. If I told them what I goes, I know they think it's so disgusting. Told them matter of fact, I said I'd rather not discuss it. Seem like every day I got another check that's coming. Training for a marathon, I'm building another pace, but I ain't have to train for this shit. Always knew that I would run it. I came too far for a grown man to tell me how to get mine. How y'all still talking, I don't listen, I swear we never align. Y'all ain't never done it, still give advice, I don't take directions from the blind. Just stayed on my job, but y'all unemployed, I told them go and apply. That's some real facts, but they won't listen, don't take opinions, y'all only give them. They crash on the road now, but I stay my line, I was always driven. Had to get it out, tunnel vision. Steph Curry, man, I'm never missing. Back in the day, I was in the office, now I'm getting paper like it's done to Mifflin. All my life I told them I would do this, now I done it. Even as a child, they tell me that boy, yeah, this Sunday. Now I seen them out, they ask me how the music coming. If I told them what I goes, I know they think it's so disgusting. All my life I told them I would do this, now I done it. Even as a child, they tell me that boy, yeah, this Sunday. Now I seen them out, they ask me how the music coming. If I told them what I goes, I know they think it's so disgusting.
Oh, it's because of that. There we go. Sorry. I'm still learning how to do this whole airship thing, guys. Hope you're having a good time. I said something really amazing just then. Actually, it wasn't amazing, but I did say something on time. I did catch the cut in right. But hey, that's why we're practicing. That's why we're doing this stuff. Welcome to the airship. It's a beautiful Sunday, last day of Pride Month. I've begged you guys to take this opportunity to buy a tail. Wear that tail. You have to like the tail. You have to feel shame from the tail and like it at the same time. And if you don't want to do a tail, think about your favorite toy and go buy it and see if you can play with it. If you can't, please don't pretend you can. Please don't do that. Here, pull over. If you were going to do that, pull over. A lot of times when someone like me is trying to give you an answer, you feel the pressure that you have to get it. And so you just get it, even though you don't get it. And that's okay. But you are only doing that to please others. You haven't actually fully gotten it. And this is what Stretching the Spirit talks about when she talks about stretching. You find yourself in that, what we're calling discomfort. The discomfort of, I don't know if I get it, is the only opportunity you have to prove that you are worthy of getting it, which is why you invest more time. Same with the stretch. The stretch is, I don't want you to picture that there are people out there that are stretching. They're like, oh my God, this feels so good. Oh my God, I just love stretching. Oh my God, I'm so good at stretching. Oh, I'm good at stretching. Yeah, I was born a stretcher. I'm Stretchy McStretcherton. I'm the stretching champion of the world. And it does seem like there's people like that out there. I know one right now. It definitely seems like those people are out there. But that's not what's happening. Sacre bleu. It's true. It's not what's happening. Those people have been practicing. That's all. They, just like I am naturally a better lover. Some of us are going to just have better traits when we get here. It's just, I don't know why. It's just the way it is, right? Some of us are cursed with some of the traits like some I have. It's tough being me. But you are not measured by how good you are at something. You are measured by how deeply you are engaged in something. And a lot of golden childs are expected to be good at something. So when they're try a sport and they're not good at it, they quit immediately. The golden child, the scapegoat, the lesser, the second child, a lot of different dynamics here, really doesn't have an issue with succeeding because no one in the family is expecting that out of them. In fact, they're expecting them to fail, which means that if they do succeed, they are going to be disappointed because no one's going to notice. I have never had anyone in my family come to any graduation I've ever been to, ever. And I've been to a lot of graduations, like a lot. Like a lot. I've written 7 books, never had anyone in my family congratulate me. None of the major steps in my life, wedding excluded, that was sort of like, it felt like I think they were obligated to be there. It's being the second child. I noticed that I was more disappointed, not by how I was being treated, but by how I was expecting to be treated. And that if I could choose which role I had, I would run as fast as I could to this stump and make sure that I could have this role again. Because if no one's expecting me to win, I can taste things. I can sit at the side of the road and have the flavor of the sport itself. And when I would run cross country, my team hated me because of how slow I was. And the cross country is a team average. So I didn't have enough sense to know that if I loved these people, I would quit. That I was hurting them by not quitting. My capacity to understand others was completely limited. I was in a salt and sugar. Those were my 2 emotions that I could taste. And that those emotions led me to a plethora of emotions now. I think I see colors other people are still in denial even exist. And I came from that place of that binary of salt, sugar, where everything was that. How did that happen? And for me, it's because of the perfect shade that I had growing up. That not being the golden child allows you to grow on the north side of the tree, and the north side of the tree has more moss because it doesn't get direct light. If you've been brought up in a place that doesn't get direct light and you find yourself bitching about not having direct light, I think that there's a good chance that you were bitching because the bitching serves you. And this is something where I lose a lot of people. Because no one wants to look at the idea that the people that are complaining maybe are profiting from that. It's a very expensive proposition to have. The reason why it's so expensive is because if you're going to have to place a worker on your sympathy to make sure that the people that is actually getting your sympathy actually deserve your sympathy, then you have to change your entire game. And who the fuck wants to do that? So you don't. And so we end up embracing this kind of shallow form of witness where it's like, let's all save the planet. And it's a great training ground. And it's not wrong. It's even moral. And those three things I just said, it's not wrong. It's a training ground. No one's doing anything wrong. However, whatever it was I just said, all three of those things are possible because I am not stuck in this regimented mafia of believing A, that everyone's been lied to except for me, or B, that there's only one reality and I'm the only one who knows it, or C, everyone is lying but only I have the secret. And that all three of those are just, those would all benefit someone who wanted to bitch about the side of the tree they were meant to be on the entire time. When you're on Twitter, I noticed this, that was about Podesta, Jon Podesta, and we were looking at the 37 people that he had raped or killed or eaten or raised the children up to rape and kill or eat. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, why don't we just go get him? Like seriously, it hit me. And I started posting on Twitter, hey, why don't we just go get him? Are we playing here? Or are we being real? And if you ask on Twitter, everyone's going to insist, oh, we're real. Oh, we're being real. We've never been more real ever. And then if you're like, well, let's arrange a posse. Let's go confront this. No one's there. Same thing happened with the petrodollar. Guys, petrodollar, literally evilest piece of shit ever. People in the crowd, yeah, totally, it sucks. Yeah, tell him, James, it's the key to success for everything going forward with sovereignties. We need to get off the petrodollar. And then Bitcoin comes out and it's just fucking tumbleweeds. Exact same mentality. So I used to be mad at this. I used to say, well, that's because people are hypocritical and they're awful and blah, blah, blah. And I could not sustain myself because I require more joy to live. So I kept trying to do what everyone else is doing, which is to, how do I build my cosmology where this fucking makes sense? Because to me, if Jon Podesta was really eating children right now, and we were really so hung up about it that all of us have stopped our careers and even looking at reality as a facade now because we know what Jon Podesta is doing. And my question to you is, why the fuck don't you and I meet in Arlington? We'll say our tribute to the eternal flame and then we'll plot our move and we'll say, hey, dude, citizen's arrest. It's called a citizen's arrest. And we go in and go, hey, man, are you Jon Podesta? And be like, yeah, I'm Jon Podesta. It's like, well, you're citizen's arrest, dude. An arrest. It's like, well, I'm eating children right now. Can you come back later? And we'd be like, okay, fine. Because citizen's arrest says you cannot citizen's arrest someone if they're in a meal. Although Clint's going to bring up that an Illinois law that during a meal, if one of the things that you're eating is another human, then it doesn't count as a meal. It actually counts as a digestible homicide. And the digestible homicide would negate the rules of interrupting a meal, so the citizen's arrest would be valid. But what Mitch doesn't understand is that in D.C., those laws have been overridden because the District of Columbia has their own constitution, believe it or not. And it makes very clearly in there that no matter what or who is being eaten, that all of that counts as a meal. So it's like this whole loophole over who eats who and, all kinds of stuff like that. It's a real mess. It's a real mess. I don't even remember what I was talking about. Sorry. I really have no idea. Hope you're enjoying yourself, though. Happy Sunday. It's last day of Pride Month, as I said before. And no, these are not pride colors. I realize that the screen has sort of a rainbow, and now everyone's like, "Oh my God, the rainbow must mean, all the other things," and that's fine too. As I've said before, I don't need anyone to agree. In fact, if more of you agreed, I might start having to think about maybe I'm wrong. Because seriously, most of the crowd's usually on the side of not knowing. In fact, a guy made the comment the other day, is like, James, I'm going to put you in the camp of, someone who's trying to bring down society. And I reminded him, every time someone puts someone in a camp, they're always wrong. I can't think of anyone that's like, hey, let's put these people in camps. And then later on, everyone's like, oh, what a great idea that was. I really cannot think of one time where that was a good idea. So maybe you guys can think of a different example where maybe that was okay, but I certainly can't. So anyway, we're trying this radio show format. I realize right now there's literally nothing on the screen at all. It's not even a nice picture, and that's because I'm working on the Airship. And Airship is an application that I'm writing in Unity that is going to allow me to kind of show you like a slideshow about what's going on, and then but it's just so much code right now that it's been taking up most of my time. And I wasn't even going to stream today, but I miss doing this. There's a lot of things I've been wanting to talk about. And even though the Airship isn't ready, I still thought it'd be fun to take it out and try it for a spin. So that's what's going on tonight. If you're wondering about the format or anything else, it's kind of weird knowing what to actually put on my channel, knowing what not to put on. I don't really do the channel so much for the viewer. It's more of kind of like a diary for me. But then people just started watching, and then I was like, hey, I can't get a job anymore because of my fucking mouth. So maybe I could just start to put on a show. And so, you're watching the birth of James True live as it is now. And it's always changing. I'm sorry about that. Maybe it changes too much. Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, so that's what we're trying today. We'll be adding some more visuals later and things like that. They'll actually do some flights and things like that. I wish I could show you more of that, but it's just the code is just, oh man, so much code. It's been great though. It's been great, but there's a lot of code. If you missed the first part of the show, this show is brought to you by hydrogen peroxide, which is a new cleaning solution only available from Revco. And you can go get a bottle today and peroxide your problems away. And I'm checking my drafts now. I want to remind everybody, I will be here challenging you until I'm dead. Only then will you fully understand my purpose. No one here needs to get me while I'm alive. I promise you that. My fruit is made to ferment unappreciated. Even the appreciation you give me now, I thank you for. It's really not meant to happen. I think this is the wine of some of us. What I mean is that I'll whine about it, I'll complain about it, but the truth is that so many of us that we consider valuable, we really only recognize their fruit after they're gone. And when I look a lot at what I post and some of the reactions I get to it and how those things are received, I think most of the receptions I get is because people are looking at me in too tangible of a way. And that if we start to understand the scarcity of each of us, and I will only be able to teach you my scarcity after I die, then it's quite natural that so many of us are watching each other die because we're really needing to learn scarcity because clearly we don't understand that yet. the preciousness of that. The preciousness of really every moment, every stretch that you have throughout the day. And this month, I've told you I've been thinking a lot about Pride Month. This month has been different for me because I haven't approached it from that same eugenical, which is still a valid place, a valuable posture. But because I've been able to relax about Pride, for the first time, I've actually just tried to look at the gender thing with more compassion, and I've been blown away by all the things I was missing. None of these things have anything to do with sex. And because of the nature of the simplistic way that our limbic system grows, if you were a simpleton who had an emotional flavor palette of salt or sugar, and those were your two binaries, it would be impossible for you to see what I've gone through this month and not look at it as something about sex. And even the few debates that I've chosen to have, which have not been healthy, especially last week, have taught me that no matter how eloquent I try and move my tongue, I'm not going to be able to convey a new color that someone just cannot see right now. Even though I know that they could see this color if they would relax. So even the profundity of the rainbow itself has become an esoteric symbol for me. And for me to go into Pride Month the way that I've always felt before, with this new attitude, and to be invigorated by this symbol now for the first time, has really been a level up for me. That I feel intrinsically deeper, more connected into the soil. The algorithm of YouTube has actually dropped some music for me that I don't think it would have ever dropped before had I not had this new hallucination. Meaning, I open the window, the ha, into the lucent nature of reality. I take the Pride ion channel, the door of pride, and I open the ha, and I look at God through the pride of the rainbow, and I see him too. And I didn't think that I would, which is why I never opened that door. And when you're in a sympathetic state, all of your doors from the waist up are closed. You're like, but sympathetic sounds good. I know it's confusing, but when you look at the anatomy, the sympathetic is this lizard-like state. And when you stay in that lizard-like moment, you're going to collapse every wave. You're going to listen to me at double speed, and you're going to insist that everything has to have a purpose or a point. And you're going to be existing on the hunting, the completion of, the acquisition instead of the acquisition, right? To acquire the qualia of a moment is something that we don't even have a word for yet. We don't even have a word for it. So we are on new territory. We're on new ground. And you guys are here with me. Seeing some lovely smiles and waves and rainbow hearts from the chat. Great to be here, everyone. Hope you guys are enjoying this late night cruise on the airship. I sure am. I have been wanting to do more radio stuff, and this is a test flight. We'll see how that goes. I'm all over the place, and that's why I'm so thankful for my patrons that allow me to experiment. I hope that they are actually, I don't hope, they've been very resilient. I am amazed at how well I've been able to maintain, and this is all part of it. Eventually, you'll be able to download this app, but I don't like telling you. I'd rather show you. I'd rather show you than tell you. So we're losing a little bit of altitude here. We're down to 90 viewers, which are beautiful. That's amazing. I love doing that. And if each of you were to place your thumbs up, I don't know if it would change. I don't know how the algorithm works. I personally don't even think it pays attention to it. But I think that by me asking for you to hit thumbs up, it gives you the opportunity to feel like someone needs you, and then you can thumbs up. So I think even that is like more than enough of a reason to say, hey, give a thumbs up if you want. And so this is the kind of stuff I mean where, like stretching the spirit, where you really notice there's more to all these moments. I was trying to say this earlier, and I realized I don't think it's going to take. I don't think it's going to go over. But this month, I've approached the entire gender thing with more compassion. It's the first time I've done that. I've been more of just eugenics, which is still there, as I said before. But there's a pose of your body that you have when you're a man, and a pose of your body that you have when you're a woman. And I don't fully understand it. I have a lot of testosterone. I got a penis. I got a purse. Got a coin purse with some marbles inside, and they're exterior to me. And that I got bald hair on top. I got a lot of stuff, hormones that have for a long time wanted me to be in a certain posture. And only this month did I think back to my childhood, and I started to realize how much of those postures I lost because of the puberty. And I'm not suggesting that I shouldn't have entered puberty. I'm telling you that when you enter puberty, every single part of your being starts to focus on it's time to reproduce. We have to go into breeding. And that I think that the reason why all of us go into breeding is because the communal vibe tells you, hey man, we need more kids. And it creates this vibe, this state. It's an egregoric state that makes people want to create a society that has breeders in it. And I think it's fucking great. It's brilliant. It's like exactly what we need to happen. I don't want to change a thing. I think that as that crop grows and proliferates, it sinks itself into the soil, and the soil starts to petrify and turns into things like concrete. And a mycelium of wires that interconnect everyone is buried underground, and there's like stop signs and traffic and all the other symbols that you see that the nature itself has changed because the species has changed. And that built into that would be a trigger, an algorithm that is unwound when the collective around it has built up enough of an infrastructure around itself where the pheromones trigger the pineal gland, the grand pituitary clock that cycles every 13 years that kicks you into puberty, and that it starts to notice, wow, there are plenty of kids around. There are plenty of kids around. And how does it know? Because the body can smell asphalt. It can smell copper evaporating in the atmosphere from the heat of phone calls and internet porn being downloaded at 17 trillion bits per second. And that as this network grows and grows, the vibration from this network starts to signal the humans to change modes. And they do. So the traditional imaginary, I mean this in a positive way, the traditional imaginary roles of you need to do this and you need to do this are no longer necessary. And people who have abandoned their ability to find the stretch in the spirit, to find the moment, have missed themselves because they felt the pressure to breed and have abandoned their own essence to fit into the role of child maker, and that they feel abandoned not by society but by themselves, and that this abandonment is also in the genes. And when you have that abandonment mixed with the smell of asphalt, something different happens. Something different happens. And a new gear is unleashed. A new gear opens up. And this new gear changes the mode of what it's like to be human. And all of a sudden, we're not as stupid to say, hey, let's go to a foreign land and bury 60,000 landmines and then call ourselves heroes for it. Let's do that. That suddenly we don't want to do that anymore. And suddenly the women aren't so turned on when we go out and bash the skull of another human being because they were wearing the wrong shirt. And we come back and the women are like, I'm not that impressed with your violence. And we're like, what the fuck? You fucking loved it when I bashed Ogg's head in. You fucking loved it. Remember? First orgasm invented by woman. Remember? You said I did that. You claimed I gave that to you. Remember? We have trophy. Right? And that we get sold into this imaginary idea that if you play cops and robbers, if you imaginate this, this will happen. And the entire time as you're a little kid, you're like, but I want to play this. You grow a pimple. You grow a zit. You grow a zit. Do you know why you grow a zit? Because the pus from that zit, sorry to get gross, is the ion channel shutting off. You're shutting the door of the hallucination for who you wanted to be. Society's telling you don't. Don't do that. I wore Peter Pan tights in 5th grade. This was fucking fabulous. I looked amazing. I think I flew home from school. Like, I didn't walk home. I flew home. Like, the amount of luxury I felt all day long just could not be matched. I could do anything in those tights. Anything. And you find as you get older that people can't tolerate you being able to do anything. And you're on the bus and everyone's playing, let's pretend like our lives are pointless and we're all fucking asleep. And everyone goes into sheep mode and everyone's pretending that our lives are meaningless and none of us are going to have a moment. And what happens? A 7-year-old comes in and just wreaks havoc on the entire bus. She says, everyone on the bus, fuck you. We are playing. It is My Little Pony up in here. And people get mad. They get so angry at that. And that anger caramelizes. And we just call it normal. We just call it normal. This new world, I don't think that what we have is broken. I think what we have was straining to find a new way. And I think the people that checked out, I think after this is all over and all of us are gone, you're going to find that the people who checked out wanted to. That the new vibration didn't smell enough like asphalt for them. Or it smelled too much like asphalt for them. And it's no different than a theater. The truth is, if you want to leave the theater, it's going to be a tunnel of bright light. And it's going to be blinding. And you're not even going to remember what town you live in when you leave the theater. It takes you a while. You have no idea what's going on. The immersion is supposed to liquidate you like this. The reason why we cannot remember who we were outside of this, I think has a lot to do with hydrogen. I would say peroxide, but I actually don't mean this as a joke. The lipid layers that formulate every cell wall is a hydrophobic layer of lipids. Kind of looks like teeth. And these teeth have these two little pointy legs, and the pointy legs are opposite to each other, and they find each other, and they only agree on one thing, that we hate water. They when they hate water, they abhor water because they lose themselves. That's why. They lose their identity. The cell would not be a cell if it did not have the lipids hating the existence of water outside of itself. And the exoskeleton that forms these invisible scaffoldings of this amazingly complicated cellular wall, which, by the way, turns out seems to be the very source of quantum entanglement. that the collapsing of conscious, it's considered, I can't wait to show this guys with you, Roger Penrose on this, but the idea that the source of the quantum collapsing itself is probably going to be in the vestibules of your cells, that the chambers, the tubes that are inside your cells are so long and straight and perfectly uniform that they would allow you to equate or constantly be collapsing waves of probability inside yourself, which comes back to this Moya idea that I'm pushing, or this Osiris idea if you read Ark of Baphomet. It's the same idea. It's just that the imagination of what this actually looks like is just becoming more visual for me. And so I see a world that absolutely every single thing that is outside of me is a hallucination that I've placed in a space, and that I would need a board that would have all of these mile markers. Do you understand that the vestibules that are collapsing the quantum probabilities and what's determining reality would look exactly like the roadways that I have, where every single mile is marked in tenths of a degree, that every tenth of a mile is marked with a number, because you would need a spatial place to store RAM, to store data, so that you can compute things. The truth is, without these lipids, without these hydrophobic layers, we're just wandering around saying 8675309, 8675309, 8675309, trying to remember a phone number. And that phone number is who we are. It's the new Kleos. It's the new Kleos. The new king, Leos. The new Rexus. By the way, I invented a character. His name is Rex. Wait a minute. Oh, where's my paper? Darn it. Rex Phallicon. That's his name. Rex Phallicon. It's got all the elements of King Dick, just like built into the title, right? I think Louis Farrakhan might have known this. Yeah, Rage Against the Agony. Rage, what? You can't tell me, wait. I won't tell you what to do. You'll tell me you can't. I can't remember how that goes, but anyway. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me. Right? I think that's how it goes. Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me to do. And fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. I think that's Rage Against the Machine. Little late night barding for you guys. Thank you for joining us on this flight. We are coming in for a landing here. It's been a beautiful time. I'd like to thank you all for joining me. Would love to know what you think about this format. If you want to leave a comment, I consider those to be the special muffins that people leave, and I love my muffins there, ladies and gentlemen. So, yeah, let me know what you think or don't. Come to Patreon, join us there. You can join for free, get invited to Airship, have some wonderful discussions, try and figure some stuff out, try to forget some things, try and not forget some things, all that stuff. Have a good time. Thank you so much, everyone. Love you.